Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. As you join in, please feel free to introduce yourself within the chat. If you want to include your name, your organization, where you're coming from, we're going to get started in just a second. Hello, everyone that's joining in. Welcome, welcome. As you see in the chat, if you want to introduce yourself with your name, your organization, where you're coming from, we're going to get started in just a couple of seconds. I already see we have already from across the country, California, Nebraska. That's so awesome to see where everyone's coming from. All right, so I'm going to get started, but again, feel free to continue to introduce yourself within the chat. Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you here, and we're so excited to talk about Google Ad Grants for nonprofits. My name is Lisa Galprin. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at Mighty Cause. We'll also have Greg here, who is our Senior Marketing Manager, hop on in just a second. But before we hand the reins over to JR, who's going to talk about Google Ad Grants, I just want to share a little bit about Mighty Cause in case this is your first webinar with us, you aren't familiar with us. We've been in the nonprofit space since 2006, so for quite a long time. We are a free year-round all-in-one fundraising tool that nonprofits can utilize for specific fundraising campaigns or just for yearly donations. We have a whole suite of fundraising tools that organizations can utilize, from integrations to donor management tools, peer-to-peer fundraising, etc. So if you're interested in learning more about our suite of fundraising tools, there is a QR code here as well as a link. So feel free to access that link. As well, we will provide a survey at the end where you can share with us if you're interested in learning more. All right, well, let's get to why we're all here, Google Ad Grants. I am so excited to have JR Griggs here from outbound.com. And so I will give you the reins, JR.
Sorry, find the mute button there. I've got, I want to make sure my slides are working here. Let's see. Center view. I'm going to move this over here. Okay, there we go. All right, I'll quickly introduce, now I got that set up, introduce myself. My name is JR. Been doing marketing and ads for quite a while, 16 years now, I think, so 2009. And we've been working with Greg and Mighty Cause for quite a bit. And so they asked if we could help out and go over some stuff with you guys and run us some specials for the nonprofits that work with Mighty Cause. So gonna do a lot today. I hope usually when I do these, I tend to overload with information. So I think the good news is we will have Q&A at the end, as well as a chance if anybody needs help, we'll be able to help you guys out with getting your grants up, getting your counts up, because it'll be a lot of info today. But I've got as many slides as I can get so you guys can screenshot them and get that info, and we'll be here after.
Yeah, I was going to also just add this webinar is being recorded as well. So we'll send a copy of the slide deck as well as the recording in a follow-up email. So we'll share that all with you.
Perfect. Let me go back here and get this working. So I think we just need to share this screen and make sure it's on full. Right. Hopefully everybody sees this. Does that look right?
Yeah, that looks great.
All right, perfect. Okay. All right, so I think we're also going to cover today a lot about the whole ad or the whole grant that you guys get. I don't know how many people get that. How many people are even aware that there is a Google for Nonprofit? I think you guys to do the hand raise thing, and I should be able to see that. Um, for in general, a lot of nonprofits don't know it, so we're going to cover kind of everything you guys get in this. So we'll go through that. But it's surprising how many nonprofits I meet that don't even know there is such a thing. And so they're shocked to find out that they're missing out on a lot of free money from the software that they get as well. A little bit about us as a company as well. So Outbound, so I've been doing this, like I said, over 16 years, doing marketing and ads, consulting. And then we have a company here at outbound.com where we are building some AI automation for ads as well as doing typical agency stuff. So the typical stuff you would expect from an agency, we also do that. And so we've been excited to work with Mighty Cause for a while to help out with their stuff. And so when Greg said, "Hey, do you want to educate some people on these?" We were like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. That'll be awesome." And teach you guys how to use this. I think it's great what Google does. I think nonprofits, you guys are always looking for grants and ways to excel the business, and it's tough out there. It's not easy. Getting donations isn't easy. Getting partnerships isn't easy. And so anything you guys can get is awesome. So if I'm going to help you do that today, that'll be awesome. And I see some hands raised, so that's good. So you guys do know about it. This thing keeps freezing on me, which is lovely. There we go. All right, so some of the things we're going to cover today. One, what is the Google for Nonprofits? What that entails for you guys, what's included in it, who qualifies, how to sign up. Then we'll get into the Google Ads grant, which I think is what everybody's here for today, because that's where the big money comes in. We'll also do your best practices for ads. I'm going to try to go as in-depth as possible into what you guys should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, and how to get the most out of those ad accounts for you. And then we will finish with some Q&A where we can just, any questions you got, if you're stuck on something or you've tried something or you're not sure how to get your ads running. A lot of times we end up with situations where people can't get their ads to spend. Big, huge problem with grant accounts is them just not spending. They're super low on clicks and impressions. And so we've got some tips that might be able to help with that. And if we can address your business specifically, that would be awesome as well. So I'd love to do that for you guys. And then you will be able to get more help at outbound.com/mightycause, where you could reach out, get a consultation, and we can kind of try to help you walk through any problems you're having with your ads. So the first thing I want to cover here is the fact that I'm missing a slide on what is the Google for Nonprofits, but we'll just jump into that. So obviously, Google created this for nonprofits really all over the world, and we'll get into a little bit of that. There's over 70 countries, I think, that now have Google for Nonprofits, and you get a lot of useful tools, more than I think most people are using or are aware of. And it's like I said, it's surprising how many people will come across that are paying for Workspace right now when they could be getting this for free. We've met nonprofits that have 20, 30, 40 people, and they're paying, the $15 a month or $20 a month for Google Workspace, when that's one of the things that's completely free. So aside from the ads, you have Workspace, you have YouTube features, you have map features, all kinds of stuff we'll kind of get in today. Drive, things that, are really pretty essential to run your business. You're probably already using if you're not using Teams or any of the other services. So we'll get into some of that and how you guys can take advantage of that, and then some of the price differences in that as well. But you do get the full Workspace for your nonprofit. So your emails, your Gmail, Drive, Calendar, Meet. I mean, there's obviously a ton in there. I'm looking at the some of the items in here, but there's also YouTube and Maps we'll cover as well. If you have the free, you can get the free one from the nonprofits. But even if you were to upgrade, right? So even if you needed, if you're doing professional email addresses, 150 participants, 100 terabytes shared across, I mean, you could see even if you had to upgrade to anything, it's still discounted. If you go a little bit higher than that, but it's very rare. Like what else? You're not getting much else unless you needed 2 terabytes per user, 5 terabytes per user, but still you're at 70% off on the highest tier, 72% off on the mid tier. So it's definitely worth signing up for, if anything, even if you're not going to end up advertising. This is worth having. It's completely free. And you've got a full suite of software you could be using for your nonprofit. The other thing that people don't realize they get is Google Earth and Maps for nonprofits. This is actually a pretty cool feature that a lot of people aren't using, but if you ever needed a map on your website to show locations or areas that you serve or stories that you've impacted, this is a service you could be using, which normally anybody else would have to pay for. Same with just maps for directions. Chances are most people are probably using just the address paste from Google and putting it into their website. There's actually more features you could be using by using the actual Earth and Maps feature that Google gives you for free. Way more interactive. So there's a whole lot you could do. Definitely look into using that because you guys are definitely impacting different areas, different zones. You might have different locations. So having the actual map that you would normally pay for is worth having on your website. You also get YouTube for nonprofits, which is, again, more than just a YouTube channel. You guys get donor buttons and cards and things that you can put on your YouTube videos that others cannot. You also get creative tools that others will have to pay for as well. So it's more than just the basic YouTube. I've talked to nonprofits that say, well, we have YouTube. But if you're not using the nonprofit YouTube, you are missing out on a chance to have that donor button. So when you're creating cool stories and cool videos that might get shared or get reached because you're getting some traction out there, you can have that donor button, which is important to have. That's just one of the features, but then also in the creative tools, normally you'd have to pay for some of the extra features in there. Those are free for you as well. So there's a whole lot of stuff that you could be missing out if you're just using YouTube and you're not using the nonprofit version. And then last, the big one, the Google Ad Grant, which is $10,000 in free ad spend every single month. Obviously, that's an incredible amount of money. If you can use the whole 10,000 every month, you don't have to. Of course, ideally you want to, but to have $10,000 every single month pumping traffic into your brand is, of course, a pretty big benefit to your business. I can't see, by the way, it's Lisa, right? I can't see if they're asking questions, but I think we'll just address most of them at the end, right?
Yeah, I will. If you guys want to use the chat or the questions and answers tool, I'll stop you at any point if there are questions that come through.
All right, perfect. And we'll try to answer, especially at the end, if you've got specific ones for your business. I think those are the most fun to answer when you're stuck on something. There, my chat popped up just now. So let's look at who qualifies. The qualifications aren't actually that crazy. You would think they're a little bit more strict, but they're really not bad. You do have to be a registered 501c3. In the US, other countries have different rules. So if you're on here and you're nonprofits in another country, there are different rules for that. I do know it's over 70 countries. I don't know the exact number, but they keep adding more countries that they're available in. You got to agree to the terms, and then you can't be a government entity, a hospital, healthcare provider, school, academic institution, or a university. There are ways that you can still use it if you're any of those things. It's just that the specific nonprofit and the use of the ads or the grant can't be for those things. So there are other ways, like we have seen where it might be a hospital or healthcare organization. You can't, let's say you're a hospital or healthcare is nonprofit, you can't necessarily use it for that. However, if you had a nonprofit that was focused on something else and it happens to be associated with a hospital, you do qualify for that. It's just that the nonprofit itself can't be geared towards schools or government entities or any of those things. Signing up is actually pretty simple. There is a process of going through and filling it out, and I don't have all that in here. But essentially, you go to google.com/nonprofits, click the Get Started button, and then you guys are you're going to walk through a set where you've got to put in your information. You're going to need to put in your I forget the name of the organization that verifies, but you do have to be verified to make sure that you're a nonprofit. They say it takes about 2 weeks to get fully confirmed and to get approved. I've seen it happen even faster than that. I've seen sometimes it takes longer where they need more paperwork, but it's not a crazy process. It's really simple to sign up for. So if you haven't done that yet, you definitely want to do that. So now getting
Yeah, I
into the
think
grant ads. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, JR, for what it's worth, this is Greg here. I think the platform that it used to be GuideStar, but now they verify it through a platform called GoodStack, which is essentially the same thing. But yeah, like you said, I've seen it take usually the majority is 2, 3, 4 days, but they do say up to 2 weeks for approval.
Yeah, it's super rare to see it go that long. The last few we did, they had it in like 3 days. I want to say they were up and running with their grant. And again, like so, you can convert all your your info over. I've seen like people with 20 accounts and they're paying for all these workspace accounts, and so that immediately, you could do the math in your head on that. If it's a 15, $20 per user, even that's a pretty huge savings. And then you throw in the $10,000 in ad grants, and that's an even bigger savings for you guys. So I'll go over now. We'll go into the actual ads. So you get all that stuff, which is great. Then when you get this $10,000 and you get this set up, they do have specific rules for how to use the ads. So I'm going to try to cover some of that here before we get into the more in-depth best practices for the ads. So one thing, hopefully you guys all have an SSL website. If you do not, it is 2025. You've got to get in on SSL. I am surprised how many times I see websites that have the warning up there that it's not a secure website, but they are going to require that for you to run the ads. The other thing is you need to have a full navigation website. You need to have, it's a little different than if you're running paid accounts and you've ever seen ads run to what we call landing pages or squeeze pages where there's no links. You cannot do that. So if you've tried to run ads to a page that does not have full navigation, you will get your ads declined. They will take those down, and eventually it'll get suspended if it doesn't have enough good ads up. But you want full navigation. Make sure that they can find out about your nonprofit. There needs to be good about page, privacy policies, all the stuff that you would expect to see. So we always recommend run ads to your main website, not anything else. It's hard to even run them to event pages sometimes. Like if you're trying to run it to Eventbrite, sometimes that can cause problems. So to your website first, and then send them anywhere else you guys want to send them. But they will inspect your website as well. Also, when you're signing up, be very critical or careful that the name of your nonprofit is what you're using when you sign up. So if your nonprofit has a different corporate name than what you go by, sign up with the corporate name. Don't use the DBA or whatever it is you're using for the nonprofit because they will reject that. It won't match up. And then on your website, it needs to say that at the footer as well, like what the real corporate name is. We've seen that happen where it mismatches the names and you get denied for that as well. It won't affect your ads. It doesn't affect where you can send the traffic because the URL is not as important. What's important is that they find out that, okay, this is the nonprofit that's registered, and this is what the website says is the nonprofit, and this is how we find out about it. You want to make sure that you're geo-targeting proper areas. They will, of course, if you're in one area. Now, you can get away with a lot on this in ways, because let's say you are in, we're here in Tampa. So let's say you're in Tampa, but you can get donors from all over the country. There are ways to advertise that all over the country. You just don't want to be advertising maybe an event that's happening in Tampa in California, or an event in California and Texas, because then you can start getting issues with your geo-targeting is not correct and you're advertising further than you should be. They do want the user experience to be good. Whereas if somebody's looking for, maybe they're looking for a service in Dallas and they see the ad in New York, it's completely useless to them because they can't use your service. They can't go to your event, and you can start getting issues with that. And Google does not want users to get upset because then they won't use Google anymore. No single keywords or overly generic. So if you are selling, or if you have shirts, maybe you create clothing for homeless, you do not want to be using shirts as a keyword or jeans as a keyword. It's overly generic. It's way too broad of a keyword, and it'll get your account banned eventually. if you were to try to do that. So you do want to make sure that you are using proper terms like maybe clothing for the homeless, shirts for homeless, things that would actually be relevant to what you do, not something that's like, hey, let's go really broad and get anything we can get. It may work for a little bit of time, but that little short-term gain will be lost when they take away your grant account and then you're not eligible for one in the future. So we definitely don't want to do that. Keyword score of at least 3, quality score. If you're not familiar with the quality score, your keyword quality score is a set of metrics that Google uses. One, how relevant is the keyword to the landing page and the ad? So they're going to look at that relevance. They're looking at how likely is it someone that's going to click this ad. So for instance, if you have shirt and you don't have exactly shirts, the relevance and the connection there are probably lost. Google sees that, lowers your quality score. If the landing page experience isn't good, they're going to lower your quality score there. If your conversion rates aren't good. So there's a lot of factors that they're looking. So we're going to discuss some of how you can go really broad with your account, but keep this in mind when we are looking at that, because we want to keep things a little bit tighter to what the intent of the search is. Are you offering it? Are your headlines matching what the person was searching? And then does the landing page match what that ad and keyword was? Because otherwise Google sees that as bad, flags it, your ad won't serve, which will also show why we need to have really built out pages. Ads should be going to specific pages, not your entire website, not just your homepage. You want to make sure that funnel is working well to keep that quality score up so that we don't get an account banned by not having a good enough quality score. You must have 2 ad groups per campaign. So that's very important. Every campaign has 2 ad groups. And so just to be very clear on this page here, this slide, anything I'm saying here are some of like the rules that, not best practices, right? So honestly, you should have more ad groups if possible per campaign, but this is just the minimum. So anything I'm putting on this slide is, if you're not doing this, you can't use the ads. This is not just best practice. This is Google saying, this is what you have to do or else you can't use your ads. So these are things that would get you banned or removed. 2 ads per ad group. I recommend 3 personally. The more the better. More testing, more variations of the terms, more ways to say, even just saying the same thing can get you a better click-through rate. And what we're going to care about here is click-through rate, as we'll see. But yeah, if there's not 2 ads per ad group, they will, again, ban your account. 2 site link extensions. Those, I'm sure you guys seen those in there if you've done these ads, but there is a site link extension is if you've ever searched for Google, you search something, you see an ad, you see little links underneath the ad. Those are the site link extensions. You're going to need at least 2 of those to other pages on your website. They can be on the same page if it's an anchor link, but you do need to have at least 2 of those in the ad. Click-through rate of 5%. If people are searching stuff and not clicking your ad, it's a bad look for Google, and they're not going to give you the free money to spend if you can't get people to click the ads, which is another reason we want super relevant keywords connected to super relevant ads and then connected to a super relevant landing page experience. Because if they're not clicking that ad, Google sees that and again will flag your account. So these could be things that if you've had problems, and we'll get to the Q&A, and some of you guys, I'll bet we have some of these questions. Some of you guys are probably already doing this, and you're probably, noticing that, hey, I've had problems running my ads, and yeah, I'm not doing these things. And so these might be reasons your ads weren't running in the first place. And then you do have to have conversion tracking and conversion strategy. So you do have to have conversion-based ads. It doesn't have to be a crazy conversion. You could set up page views as conversions. You could set up forms as conversions. I think those are some of the best ones. If you're setting up a very high conversion on your site, you may be running into issues there if you're not getting lower end conversions, right? So if you've got a big ask, like maybe the only conversion on your website is donate, that's a bigger ask when people are searching and going to your website. And so you're going to have a very low amount of conversions, which is going to hurt your campaign in general. Because the fact that we're forced to use conversion-based strategy, you need conversions. So you can't just have like a few a year. You want quite a few a week for Google to be able to optimize your account. So the better conversions we have up front, the better off we are. So simple things like a newsletter, and we'll get into why that's huge at the end, by the way. We'll talk about why just a newsletter can be so huge for you guys to run traffic to that and get as many signups as possible for that. I think it's gold if I'm a nonprofit and I'm running ads. But the most conversions you can get in a week will help your ads optimize best and will keep Google happy because you've got a conversion strategy and you're keeping up with their best practices by having all these other things in place. And there's probably a few I'm missing here. I'm just putting down the best ones that I know that will usually cause an ad account to not spend or for Google to say, hey, you can't run your ads. Now the fun part, best practices. This is where I'll take probably the most time, is kind of teaching you guys the best things we can do. So what I'm gonna do is run through some of the things that we know work, as well as some of the best strategies that aren't just for nonprofits, but for businesses in general. So for whether you've got a nonprofit or a paid account, these are the things that we would do. The good news is you guys actually have, while limited, so I do want to make sure I emphasize that the grant accounts are limited. That's why you have to pay attention to some of these rules so well. So a grant account, even though they're giving you $10,000 in ad spend, it's not the same ad spend that you would get if you had a paid account. You're getting what's the leftover inventory. So you're not getting first placement, which is another tricky thing that a lot of nonprofits have, is they're trying to go after some of the biggest high hitting keywords and compete with the rest of the market that's paying. And you can't really do that because Google's going to give preference to the paid accounts. That's it makes sense. It's free money for you, and they certainly can't give away free money to, you know, a nonprofit that's advertising for. It could be maybe you have an attraction type nonprofit where you do events at places, and then there's other people paying. It would seem, you know, obviously it'd be, Google wouldn't be able to afford to give you the grant if they weren't helping the people that are paying run their ads. So what ends up happening is it makes it even more important that you follow the best practices and that you go as broad as possible and advertise as much as possible, which we'll cover, to make sure that you're getting as much traffic as possible. The other good news is that while it is the leftover inventory, yours doesn't run out, right? The paid person does run out. They've got a budget every day. As soon as that budget's gone, your ads are going to start filling in and you take up the leftover space. We just want to make sure that we're advertising as much as possible on these accounts to get as much of that space. And so one big problem we see, and I'll cover this a little bit, is grant accounts tend to start thinking like paid accounts. Like, how would I run a paid account? Got to erase the whiteboard on these grant accounts. They're nothing like a paid account. Don't treat them like a paid account. We want to go big and broad, and we want to get as much traffic as we can and as many ads as we can the right way, not violating the former slide. And then we're going to go over some of the best ones here for you guys to get the most value out of. Oh. I went too fast. So advertise everything. So what I mean by advertise everything is you have no need to set any limits on your ads. If I run a business and I'm paying for accounts, I tend to be a little bit more hesitant on the services that maybe don't pay as much, right? So I may have some really high profit margin items. I want to run ads to those all day. They convert well, they do well, and I make a lot of money. I may not want to run ads to the things that are less likely to sell or have less profit or take too long to sell or don't get me as many sales per week. With a grant account, this is free money. Doesn't matter. It could be the lowest level stuff that you have in your business. Still run ads to it because we're trying to get awareness. We're trying to get a following. We're trying to grow a user base. We're trying to get donors and ambassadors for our nonprofits. So we want to say as much as possible, advertise anything on that website we can, even blog posts. It could be donations, volunteers, supporters, events. It could be the simplest stuff on that website. We're really trying to get as many people to know who we are in as short a time as possible. So every day we want that money to spend as best as it can. It's a lot of money. And by blog posts, I mean, if your nonprofit has great information that the community is searching for, which I hope you already do, because that's a great strategy in general, you can run ads to that. So it could be, you know, if you're, we'll go with the homelessness again. If you're dealing with things for the homelessness, maybe you have blog posts of how to best support homelessness in my community. That's something people search, right? Homeless charities to support, homeless advice for getting help for the homeless, raising funds for the homeless. What charities are good for the homeless? You think of anything that your audience is searching, create content for that on your website, and then run ads to it. You have free ads. So now when somebody's searching, what are the best ways to raise money for the homeless? Hopefully they're finding your blog post. Then they're learning who you are because you're like, okay, wow, there's this charity that does work for the homeless in my community. And now they know who you are. Hopefully they sign up for something. And then you've got now somebody that you can continue to market to, continue to grow with. And the best part is they're searching terms like how to help the homeless. They could be a volunteer for you. They could be a donor for you. So there's a chance there that they're going to join your organization if you've got the content. So don't think like a normal business where we're just advertising simple things, or don't think like, well, what we need is donations, so let's just advertise donations, let's just try to get donations. The donations come from growing the following, being on top of people's mind, giving them a reason to champion your brand. So by advertising everything with this free money, those come after, right? The donations come after. You can still advertise for donations, but a lot of people aren't like, hey, where can I donate my money today? What they're looking for is, how do I support a community? How do I support something I care about? And then we're hoping that you're the one that's there when we run these ads. The other thing you want to do is use all available features. Use every feature possible in your grant account. A lot of people go in, they'll create an ad, they got some headlines, they got some descriptions. You've got 15 headlines. Use all 15 headlines. Don't skimp on that. Even if you have to say the same thing more than once, just rewrite it. Don't write. I've come into accounts before where they've got 5 headlines, 10 headlines. You have 15. Use all 15. Use as many characters as possible in those 15, right? So if you've got 30 characters, try not to do just 10. 4 descriptions. All 4 descriptions. Put those in there. Don't skimp on the descriptions. Not only does this help you say more, but Google respects the ad more because it's filled out more and it's got more stuff. Use the call outs, the site links, locations, anything you can put in there, get it in the ad. You get your logo, you can put your business name. Don't skimp on any of these ads. Load it up. Every feature that Google gives you, give it. You also take more space in the ad. If you do any searches and you see a Google ad, you'll notice some are kind of skinnier, and then some are really big with lots of features, little call outs. They've got site links, they've got a logo, they've got a name. Those are the ones using every feature of the ad, and it takes up more real estate, which gets you more money. So not only is it free, but now you're getting bigger space by properly using all the different settings in the ad. We also want to go very broad on our keywords. Again, it's free money, so we don't need to limit the traffic as long as the term is relevant. And this is another difference between a paid account. If I'm running ads for a plumber and I have a limited budget for that plumber, I want terms like plumber in Tampa, find a plumber in Tampa, best plumber in Tampa, how to hire a plumber, where to find a plumber. I want terms that are very intent based. If somebody's searching how to fix my toilet, I may not want to run an ad for that because it's not intent based. And if my budget's limited for the client, I don't want research terms, and I don't want how to do it yourself terms, because those people are not very likely to convert. With a grant account, it doesn't matter. If, let's say, your nonprofit is a plumber's awareness, I don't know, we'll stick with plumbers. That's an okay term. Who cares? Run the ad for it. It's free. Run the ad for those terms. So sometimes we'll look at these grant accounts and we'll see that they're trying to keep the keywords too tight because that's what they were told they have to do, because what they might have done was researched a video on how to run Google Ads, how to get the best out of Google Ads, how to get more conversions out of Google Ads. And so you're reading stuff that, yes, is true. Yes, it's true. Keep the keywords tight, keep them relevant, keep them high intent based. Those are true things with Google Ads, but not with a grant account. You have $10,000 to spend. Unless you're running out of money every month, which I doubt, spread out those keywords, go broader, because the awareness is still worth it for you. You get to pay for awareness. Awareness is one of the hardest things to pay for in a business because it's the longest to profitability. It's getting your name out there. It's branding. It's staying on top of people's mind. That is not instant money. It takes a long time for that money to come back to you when you do branding. Most businesses can't afford to do it because of that time it takes. They need conversion now. I need my toilet fixed now. I need my house painted now. That's where they have to put their money. You get to do awareness, conversion, follow. You get to do all of that because you've got the free money. So don't limit yourself on those keywords. Go as broad as possible. Doesn't mean all broad match. You can use phrase, exact if you've dealt with those before. You can mix those up still, but don't skimp on it. As long as it's relevant to your business, add that keyword. And again, I'll add something that I don't have here. Group that keyword. So an important thing is making sure you group your keywords together. So don't put all your keywords in one ad group. Each ad group, try to keep the keywords tight, right? So sticking with the, well, let's go with the homelessness example. If I had a charity that did homelessness, and let's say I did housing, clothing, food, education, and careers. My housing should be one ad group, not housing, food, careers, all in one ad group. Housing and all the housing keywords go into one ad group so that all the terms are the same. Find housing for homelessness, provide homes for homelessness. I would even say, we even go oftentimes where housing might be one group and then homes for is another group, and then home repair, fix up homes. Keep those tight, and then your food ones go in a separate ad group. The reason for that is because you have 15 headlines in your ad. You want those 15 headlines to focus on the main function of housing, which means your keywords need to focus on that. If you put housing and food in the same ad group, well, now your 15 headlines have to cover housing and food, which means you just cut the available headlines in half for each thing, because when the housing keywords comes in, only 7 to 8 of those headlines are relevant for housing because you had to create 7 to 8 for food. And then if you add in careers and anything else, you've again expanded it. And chances are, if there might be people listening that aren't even doing that, and all their headlines are the same and they're just very generic and they don't address housing. The reality is, if I search for housing, this is going to get that click-through rate up. If I search for housing, I should see ads for housing. I should see headlines and descriptions about housing. And then when I get to the page, I should see a page about housing, not your homepage, not a career page, not a food page, and preferably not a page that has career, housing, and food. Focus on housing, put the other services down at the bottom. Everything needs to be super relevant. And these are where the best practices for regular ads come in, because it's the same thing for ads. The plumber should have a page dedicated to toilets, sinks, pools, maybe. I don't think they focus on pools, but any part, showers, whatever it is, tubs, they should have a page dedicated to each thing. And the ad group is dedicated to a group of keywords. And then those ads are dedicated to those keywords, and everything works together. This is how you get your click-through rate up. This is how you get your quality score up. And this is how you get better conversions, because if somebody comes in for housing, lands on a page and can't find the housing info, they leave. But if they come in for housing, the ad says housing, the page says housing, there's a sign up, help us build homes for the homeless, help us support homelessness by building homes and communities for them, they're much more likely to convert because you're speaking to what they searched. In fact, I think the last time I checked, it was about a 30-something% increase in click-through rate. It's not click-through rate, it's the amount of people that will click through if the keyword is in the headline. So if they search housing for homelessness, they want to see housing for homelessness in the headline, they're 30% more likely to click that ad and then get to the page. And in your case, we want to spend this money, so we want those clicks. Drive to a conversion that captures the visitor. So this is a big thing. And again, we'll cover this again with the subscribers. I'm highly recommend having a subscription method on these grant accounts with these nonprofits. Get subscribers. You get 10 grand to spend. Again, if it's a plumber, I'm more likely to say, let's have a form they fill out. Let's have a phone number they call. Who cares about the email subscription? You need to sales now. You can't afford to have them sign up. If you want to have a sign up, great. For a nonprofit, it becomes even more relevant, in my opinion, because these people are showing an interest in what you do. You need to capture their info. Big fan of email subscriptions on nonprofits, pull in those users, have them sign up, learn ways to engage, give them something for signing up. Maybe it's a download they can have to help in their community to learn more about you. Offer the donation, ways to sign up for volunteering, give them those options, but get their info, right? You got that click, they're on your site, try to get them to sign up for a newsletter to stay in touch, maybe entice them with something like there's a handbook they can get or a guidebook or something they can get that entices them to fill out that form, because we want to capture that user so that we can send them stuff later and keep them aware of what you guys are doing. Lots of content on the landing page. This is super important, not just for conversion, and I don't mean chat GPT 1,000 words and make this page of just content. It still needs to look good. It needs to have pictures. It needs to be relevant. It needs to entice them, but you do need content. So the reason that's so important is Google is taking your keyword and your ad copy, and they're comparing it to your page to determine how relevant the keyword ad and ad are to the page. If you have a page with 50 words on it, 100 words, and a lot of times when I'm saying this, it's not because I'm just making it up. This is what we see a lot. Google can't fully tell that your page is the best for that keyword and ad, and they will give you a lower quality score. You're not going to get the clicks, the money's not going to spend, and then you're going to think the ads are a waste. Lots of content on the page, lots of content on the site. Keep up with your search term negation and negatives. What this means is if you've been in Google Ads before, you have your keywords that you use for, we want to advertise on these keywords. But then if you go look at your reporting, you should see under your data search terms. So insights, it'll show search terms. Those are the terms that people are coming in for. So what'll happen is you'll see, if we're using again the homelessness, housing for homelessness, you might see a search term that's completely irrelevant. I'm trying to think of one real quick, but let's say it says apartments, and I don't know, you don't deal with apartments or whatever it is, right? If I'm using the plumber as an example, this is an easy one to use. Let's say somehow we're seeing something that he doesn't do. Maybe it's where to get a porta potty, right? Google thinks toilets, porta potty, curious what people call that, porta johns, porta potties. There's so many different words for it, but I always call it porta potty. So let's say that's what they are coming in at, and they see that. They're like, wow, we got 10 clicks last month for porta potties, how to get one. I don't know why. It's because Google, some keyword or ad or content is meshing that up. You can see that in your search term report. You could take porta potty, put it in your negative, and that tells Google, hey, don't send us traffic for this. We don't want traffic for this. That stops that ad from showing. The reason this is so important is, one, if you're using paid, now I understand it's free, and you might be saying, well, who cares? It's free, right? It's free traffic, which is true to an extent. However, your click-through rate starts to go down over time because what's happening in your conversion rate. But people search for toilet repair, they search porta potty, they see plumber with the toilet, and they don't see the porta potty. They skip it. They go to the other ad that says porta potty. Google dings you for that because that's lowering your click-through rate, because you're getting search terms that nobody's clicking on because it's not relevant to your business, and your click-through rate's going below 5%, and Google's going to turn off that ad. They're just not going to run it, and we want to keep that ad running. So very important to make sure that you keep that in check and work those every single month. And then in the beginning, make sure you're doing those, because there's things that you need to block in the beginning as well. Don't think like a paid account. I think I've said that 100 times already. So don't think like a paid account. Use the best practice of paid account, but expand even further. Don't worry about the low stuff. Don't worry about the simple traffic that doesn't convert right away. Set up consistent follow-up. This is the big thing. You've got the user. Now stay on top of their mind. If you've got a newsletter sign up, and again, I say things because I've dealt with it, don't let it be a thing where it's like, yeah, we have one, we just don't email them, right? Like last time we sent out an email was Christmas. That's not going to work. You need the users to come in, and you need to send them updates as often as possible. Don't bombard them. Don't overload them with spam. But you're doing an event this weekend. Email that you're doing the event. You're doing a charity drive or some kind of sponsorship. You have a gala coming up. You have a success story, a new thing that happened, maybe a placement or something happened in the community that you were a part of. Send that stuff to them. Stay on top of their mind. They see your name, they read it, they learn, tug on the heartstrings. They want to donate. Maybe it's a reminder to follow you on social media once in a while. Maybe it's just a simple thing of like, maybe it is a Merry Christmas thing. Like those are great too. Simple stuff where you're not asking for anything, but you got to stay on their mind. If you got their email, but you're only emailing them, 4 times a year to say, hey, give us money. It's not, some will, but that's not the greatest marketing strategy, right? We want to stay on top of their mind, give them stuff that they're interested in, show them the impact you're making in the community. And it's a little bit easier when you want to ask for money and say, hey, I need a donation. We need users like you to stay afloat. A little easier for them to do so. Then the last thing I'll say is on this, remarket with your paid accounts. So now you've got them subscribed. You've got these people. Now you follow them around on Facebook. You guys have another great advantage that others don't. Most people have to pay for their initial traffic, and then they pay for the retargeting traffic because the retargeting traffic is where the gold is. They've already shown an interest. Now we want to pay money. You guys get the first part for free. So once you've got that coming in, you throw in a paid account of Facebook or Facebook, Instagram, Google, by the way, because you get more fee. You can have both. You can have a grant account and a paid account. And it's good to retarget them on that as well. And it's even more valuable. Last thing we'll show here, this funnel here is kind of what I've been describing to you in this whole process. We want these visitors to search right at the top level. So we want visitors to come in. They're going to find you through searches. And this is why it's so important that it's not just what you do. It's not just instant things, right? It's okay to have a blog post advertised about homelessness, the impacts of homelessness, data on homelessness. Doesn't have to be donate to homelessness or volunteer. Just get the awareness out, because what happens is they search and now they're in that top part of that funnel. They've gone to your website. Step 2, get them to subscribe, get them to do something to capture their data, get their name, their email, their phone number. Maybe you can do texting, grab that information, continue to market them. And we go to step 3, where now they're a fan, right? Now they're like, hey, I love what this charity does. I think it's awesome. It's great. I love these success stories. I love that they update me when they do something in my community and let me know where they're going to be and the events that they're doing. Soon they're donating. And even if they're not donating, I know that a lot of you guys want volunteers just as much because you can't do it yourself. There's not enough people to help. And if you had more people, it's a heck of a lot easier to get the job done and to market to impact your community. Get them to donate after that, but let them go through this funnel. It's the easiest way to get these donors coming in is to build hyper fans of your nonprofit. And then eventually ambassadors. Now they become a champion for you. They're the ones telling others. They're telling friends, oh, on Saturdays I volunteer here. Let's go here this weekend. This is what I'm doing next month. Now they're wearing your shirts. They're wearing your hats. They've got your bumper sticker. They're starting to talk to people about you. And it's a long process. And I get it, right? It's not the greatest thing to say, hey, there's this long process to get stuff, but that's business in general. This is how business works. But in your case, you get to do this for free with the $10,000. You got a lot of money to spend to bring people in. So yeah. Oh, I think we're sending this deck too. So I would keep this chart handy, use this in all your marketing. This is honestly one of the best ways to grow nonprofits with ads is to fill this funnel and bring as many people as you can with that $10,000. And that's all I have. I know that that's a lot of info. That's why I didn't have as many slides as I could have had because it's a whole lot of stuff to go over. We'll of course do questions. And we did set up a deal with Greg. So we do support nonprofits with our ad accounts. So we do manage ad accounts for nonprofits. So we had set up with Mighty Cause that we would do a special deal for any Mighty Cause customers where we're taking $200 off the monthly cost to do it. And we manage this all for you. Either way, if you have any questions after this that we can't get to today and you want to have somebody just give you some advice, take a look at your account and see if we can help you point you in the right direction, you can go to outbound.com/mightycause and set up a consultation. We'll kind of just try to help you out for being a Mighty Cause customer, regardless of if you need paid need management or not, we'd love to help you out and just get you guys going. And I think that's all I got. We got a lot of chat in there. I don't have any questions came in though.
Yeah, there are some questions that came in. I know Greg was helping answer some of them in the chat throughout the webinar. So are there any common keywords that may get flagged as political content that nonprofits should stay away from?
I don't know if it's any blanket keywords I can think of, other than if you are, again, don't use keywords that aren't relevant to the business. That's a huge thing. And then of course, don't use single keywords, right? So, an example is we had it was a church, ministry that was that does ministry work for churches, and there was a keyword in their prayer. That'll get you flagged, right? That's, well, it's relevant, sure. But you can't really just single keyword that. There are some exceptions to single keywording. I mean, maybe you might get away with homelessness, because it is relevant to, like, if it's you're dealing with homelessness, but mostly watch out for those terms where you're stretching because you're like, well, we pray, so we're going to use the word prayer. That'll get you. Now you're stretching things.
I think a question I saw consistently was for some nonprofits, they're don't have a lot of team members that can help out with this. Do you have any just maybe top three advice that you could give to nonprofits who they're doing a million things and they also have to, balance managing this as well?
I would say checklists. Simplify the work down to checklists. It seems overwhelming. It's a lot of stuff, right? But if you were to just focus on kind of like how we run with our agency, right? So our team has checklists on every account. Set reminders to check it once a week. I think if you can put in an hour a week into reviewing the accounts and making sure that you're searching those terms and that you're not getting bad search terms. I think that's important. Look for new stuff, write new content. So if you've got blog posts going out every month, find ways to add to some of those keywords and make sure that you are covering all those things. So you want to grow it, right? So now, again, it's free money. So we want to create as much as possible. So every time a new blog post's up, if it's relevant to create an ad for it, do that. But I would say break it down into the smallest tasks of, okay, let's set up a campaign for this week, and then just do that. Like, don't try to, what isn't the saying, like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? That's it. So yes, it's a big process, but I think if you just take it slow and do it a little bit at a time, you can get through it.
There was also a question about just in general resources as well as Google Ads customer service support. If people are having issues with them, what resources do you think are best for people to utilize when working?
So for getting resources from Google, I got distracted because someone wrote ambassador is misspelled in my ad funnel card. And so now I'm like really mad at myself, and my wife's going to be really mad. She's crazy with grammar. So the Google does give you some, they're pretty hard to get a hold of. I don't want to say they're super hard to get a hold of with grants. At times they can be helpful, and at times they're hard to get a hold of over there. Once you're running the account, sometimes they'll reach out and help if they can. It's not as easy on the grant accounts as it is on the paid accounts to get somebody, but there are resources. They do have support in there. If you get an ad flagged, oftentimes they have a chat section in there, or it's like an AI knowledge base that you would ask the question to, and it will find it. And then sometimes you have to click through like 3 or 4 times to finally get it to like send in to somebody and to appeal your thing. So also keep in mind, you can appeal when you get a flag. That'll happen. Sometimes it's a mistake. Sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. It is a mistake. Keep in mind, it's a computer it's an algorithm that's reading your ad and going, oh, this doesn't seem relevant. And they may flag something. And if you genuinely feel like, no, we didn't violate this, this is relevant, this is not an issue, you can appeal it. And there are times when you have to do that with a nonprofit specifically, because if you're dealing with sensitive topics, like we've had it with like Narcotics Anonymous type places, where obviously we're mentioning drugs a lot, and that's against Google's terms. And so we have to show that, hey, no, this is, we're not selling them, we're not promoting them. We're trying to help people, and we've had to go through an appeal process to say, no, look, this is legit. We're trying to help.
I'm just reading through some of the other questions that have come in here. Yeah, so if people are, I know there were some people who are having some really serious issues with their account and kind of dealing with Google Ads grant support. Their customer support is still the best person to kind of reach out in regards to resolving any issues with regarding their account.
If it's the ad account or just the whole,
I think their ad account.
Yeah, if it's, especially if it's something that's like, hey, you're like, if they're dealing with like if the ads aren't running and you're not seeing any errors, it could be that you're just not setting, it could be that there's not enough keywords or ad groups or campaigns, maybe not enough relevance, low quality scores. There could be some of those simple things. But if it's like, I don't know, if it's just not running, if you have all that stuff and it's not running at all, there could be other issues with the account. Normally it's flagged in some way, and you will see a note next to the ad. That's typically what we see in these cases when it's flagged. But there's support rep. One of the problems we've had with it, sometimes the support rep will tell you you're violating something, but not exactly. They can be really weird about that. Where they're just saying, oh, you're violating this. And then sometimes you'll get somebody helpful that's like, yes, you have to remove this term. That's the problem. It's this keyword. We don't like that. Or on your page, oddly, we've had it where they'll say, yeah, there's a problem with your page, and they won't tell us what's wrong with it. I don't get that. Facebook does the same thing. They say, well, then we're teaching you how to get around our system. It's like, we're not trying to get around your system. We're trying to do it the right way, but if you don't tell us the right way, we can't do that. But sometimes they'll just say, go read the rules again. So yeah, it's hit or miss on who you get and how helpful they are, unfortunately. But yeah, if you should have a flag if there's a problem.
There was a question that popped up earlier in the webinar about site speed and if that could affect your Google ads. If you could talk a little bit about that.
Definitely has an effect. So Google is looking for fast, easy sites to use. If it doesn't load fast enough, that's a flag, right? So one thing that's important to keep in mind is that, and I think I referenced it at one point, Google cares about the searcher more than anybody, believe it or not. Even with the paid accounts, I get clients that are upset with the paid accounts, but because they can't do certain things, and they're like, well, we're paying for it. But the reality is the most important person to Google is the user, the searcher. Once the ads become tainted with bad keywords, bad ads, and slow websites, people stop using Google and people stop clicking ads, and Google loses money. So the user experience is the best part, right? So if you go to a website that takes too long to load, you're out. I mean, I think they say you can lose, I don't know what the percentage is, 85% of percentages are made up. But there is a high percentage of people in the first second that will bounce out of your website if it's not already loaded. So in that first second, you could lose a bunch of people. Google knows that and will flag you if your website's not loading fast enough.
And there was someone that was asking specifically about your services. How many months do you recommend we budget for using your services? 12 months, 3 months? What's typically the average?
Say that part again.
Just how many months do you recommend nonprofits when they're thinking about, taking on a management company like yours? Of what should they budget for?
It depends on what they need, the resources they have. Is it working? I mean, are you hitting your goals? Ultimately, we want, when we're dealing with clients, we want to be free, right? So if you're paying $3.99 a month, we want to be bringing in well more than $3.99 a month in return, so that you're profiting. But I think it's individual to the business, to the nonprofit. Like, is it working? Are you getting results out of it? And because I don't think there's a budget you should set on how long or how until it's right, because it's an ever growing thing. We have accounts that are growing great for 3 months, and then they have a dip and we have to redo things, and then they'll take off again. And so it's kind of like fitness. you know, you hit your goal weight and then you take 3 months off from the gym and now you're back on a plan again, you know? So, it's kind of up and down, but I think really it's a matter of, are you getting the results? Is it helpful? Are they, doing the right things for your business? And are you seeing growth in volunteers, donors, you know, and overall the business and awareness?
Um, we'll take this final question. Our 501(c)(6 uses a 501(c)(3) fiscal sponsor. Is it within the rules to send visitors directly to our 501(c)(6) website, or do we need to move traffic through our fiscal sponsor site? So they are not eligible, but their fiscal sponsor is eligible.
So I do know that there's a thing in the rules with Google that says that it can't, that you have to, what's being advertised has to be
Where they're going
nonprofit.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes
I do
sense.
know that because I've seen that specifically stated in the rules, where they will say that it has to be the exact nonprofit that's doing it,
That makes
which is
sense.
why it's so critical to make sure in the footer, if your nonprofit's name is different than what the website says, that you have that in the footer, you have that in the about page, and that those two are connected.
And then just one other last one in terms of for your company, do you have contracts on a yearly basis or month to month?
We have varying degrees of that, like commitment levels. I don't know if we worked out exactly what we were doing for Mighty Cause on that, so I will have to double check that. It's not unheard of though that we would have a month to month. So we kind of work with the business to see what works best for them.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you so much, JR. I hope this was really informative for everyone. I know I learned a ton. We will be sending a follow-up email with a copy of the slide deck as well as a recording and as well as information about Outbound and this promotion in a follow-up email. We'll try to send it as soon as possible. There is also a survey that pops up at the very end. Let us know if there's any other topics you want us to cover, if you're interested in getting in touch with us. Thank you so much, JR. We really appreciate it.
Problem.
And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Bye.